what we're seeing there has not always been easy, and the last 2 years have been really tough for exporters. So I wonder if you could sketch in we know that sort of very difficult times have been over the last while. If you could just sketch in quite briefly what's changed since the lockdown happened, the pandemic happened, and then Brexit happened. Just a quick overview, and to see where you are and then where you are now, just to give a sense of what's changed for you as a business. Who would like to kick off with that?
I can go. But where do I start, really? I mean, it's not fair to not include Brexit with this. You talk about the lockdown and stuff, but Brexit and the implications that happened from that feels like part of the whole sphere of the difficulties with exporting internationally. Some people have given up completely on doing that. We've not, but it all really started from then. So that's just as when we were starting to learn how to export, that Brexit came along. So it's something we had to learn along the way. But there's lots of different implications that came with Brexit that a lot of people won't realise how difficult it could be for exporting into the EU, which is the main problem, by the way. It's it's sending to America, not such of a problem, or Australia or New Zealand, etc. But sending into the EU, which is arguably our second biggest market, is now incredibly difficult. In terms of lockdown and COVID, though, I think I speak for most businesses when I say that online businesses, sales went up. So it was very effective for us. We might have had to pivot. So immediately it was a complete worry. What's going to happen? The markets are all down, etc. We've got problems here. Are we going to still make sales? But as time went on and we realised everyone started going online, looking for content, looking for projects, looking for something to purchase with all their saved money from not going out partying, we started to do very well. But the pivot went from online workshops, so in-person workshops that we had quite a lot of. We were running a successful series of those on Airbnb, and they had to stop completely. Any type of workshop, I had to close down maybe 12 in the coming few months, which would have brought in a nice income, which would have been my bread and butter, I guess, and just focus entirely on online sales. But thankfully, it turned out to be a boon, really, in that instance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting about the diversification seeming to be built into your businesses. I wonder if you could explain more about that in your case, Moy. And you were talking about, in particular, online courses, and I was just really interested in how that evolved.
Well, the online sales, like you said, that took off. So I was really busy with that, which was a godsend. But the online courses, which I had done a couple of online projects, but had never really had the time to even think about filming these. And that was just amazing. And what was really amazing was, you had students from all over the world. And I also think it's a really great way to learn, because I think they're getting a better experience because they can go back and watch it. But also what was really important for me at that particular time is lots of people that took part then got in touch and said, you really saved me, actually, because I was in a pretty bad place on my own. Lots of people in Alaska for some reason, but, wherever they were, they could take part in something. Mm-hmm. So that was a really special thing as well that came from that.
And that's an unexpected aspect of that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And could you fill in something about the countries? Because one of the things Russell was interested in was also the diaspora and the Scottish diaspora, and whether that plays a role in your customers.
Well, for some reason, we get sort of some business from the UK, and obviously having the gallery, you get some tourists and local, but that certainly isn't the centre of it, and it seems to be the States and Canada, really. Europe, we have a bit of work, but that's getting a bit trickier as well anyway. So I don't know. I'm not entirely sure that that's changed. It's sort of the US seems to be the place, which is great, and still easy to do business with. So that's nice.
I'd like to come back to the ecosystem and the sort of community around, because there's the physical community and there's the online community as well. Can I ask you, Flora, first of all, your experience of coming through that period and what your pivot was?
Well, my business, I was just in the process of starting the mending sort of guides at the beginning of 2020. So I was introducing quite a new product, let's say, into my business. And I think that and the combination of lockdown really changed things for me, because I was at a point where I was thinking, oh, am I going to have to get another job? What would I do? I don't know. And the mending just took off, and there were people stuck at home who were desperate to learn a new skill. So yeah, the mending just took off in lockdown, and it was a largely digital product. And I also have quite a large customer base in the US. I think there's a huge crafting community there. So there are really big craft groups. There's huge interest in the US, like there maybe isn't in the other countries, perhaps. And then, yeah, Brexit has just made importing to the EU really difficult. So while I'd been building up a customer base for knitwear in, say, Denmark and Belgium, Belgium has such high import duties that it's not really viable for them to buy anything from me. It's 34 euros import duty before they even pay any tax on top of that. And Denmark, somehow our postal systems don't align, so everything was sent back. So I just had to stop sending things to Denmark. Yeah. But yeah, lockdown really saved my business, I think. So
it's really interesting that the sort of positive experience. Can I ask, and just for clarification about digital products, what you mean by that?
So I have some products that are just a digital download that my customers just download on their side. So it's access to videos, or it was PDF guides. So it's not a physical product.
Mm-hmm. So it's a sort of scalable aspect of your business. Or
passive income.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
And you remind me as well, talking about that, was I'd given many lectures or speaking in person to people, but I'd never given a Zoom conference or Zoom. And then suddenly there was like 5 a week. And every Zoom lecture that you give, you receive sales from or pick up new members from the community. And that was an unexpected thing. And that lasted for 2 years. And it's stopped almost completely now. But I was able to reach a much wider audience, because I thought when you had to give a talk, you had to be there in person. It's hard to remember a time before being able to give. It's more convenient now to give a Zoom conference or a Zoom talk to a camera club or an astronomy club or someone like that. I do recall that as a radical change, very nervy the first time, more nervous than in person. But we got over it, and it was very, very common. Yeah.
So it's been a behaviour that's not really sustained necessarily. So that even the teaching has changed. It just strikes me as a very fast-moving, fast-changing sort of world that you're working in when you're dealing with digital products and digital courses. I was wondering about community as well, because you've both got in different ways community, and your business is an ecosystem within Peebles. I mean, it's so. Can I find out just from each of you about your community and where your community is? It might be communities, as Rachel was saying earlier. They use the plural.
Well,
to hear from each of you, please.
It's social media, and communication via email is 100% of our community. It would be Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Really, there's other places like TikTok or Tumblr where you might pick up a few, even Reddit even. But that's where the community is slowly built. I have found, I was talking to Flora about this earlier, that you do have to maintain a momentum to keep that community up. You can't just go quiet for a couple of weeks, because people don't unfollow you, but they'll stop interacting if you leave it too long. And yeah, it's those three really: Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter is where the vast majority, and they're different the people in Twitter are very different from the people on Instagram, and you get to know that as well. So you've got to maintain 3 different social media heads to keep it up. I don't know what it's like for you guys.
Yeah, and backed up by a mailing list. I think that's an important one to pick up, because Flora, you were talking about that too. And Moy, in your case, is that mailing list, is that a driver? And a bit about the community and communities around your work.
Well, mailing list, I'm probably not very good at that. I know that a database is like, gold, and you should really work with that. But I think I overstretch myself. So that's why, having more help would be great to sort of get on top of something like that. But I think community-wise, I mean, I've been here quite a while, and, whilst lots of what I do is, involves community, it's my sort of business community is social media as well, because actually the majority of the followers that I have on Instagram or Facebook are non-UK, actually. I don't have a huge presence here than I do elsewhere, so I've got to rely on that. And that's hard work as well, because that's a full-time job, just managing that. And, sort of manage it, but I struggle. I don't, not young enough to know all the best ways to do it.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, so it's been quite hard to learn. But what I've realised is you really need to look after them, as you do with your customers in the gallery, look after them as well, and they keep coming back. But that's just a sort of small percentage of really the business that is online.
And you were talking earlier about people that help you in your roles as well. So I was wanting to ask more about that. But Flora, the communities, and is that a factor in your business?
Definitely. And I'm, again, largely on social media. So Instagram is the sort of my biggest community audience. I have just over 90,000 followers on the mending account now. And that can be great. And during lockdown, that was, I live by myself and I work by myself. So it was my connection to the world, which in some ways really helped me, because I'd be posting pictures of my daily walk and someone would go, oh, this is my daily view. So I felt like there was so much more kind of engagement and connection during lockdown via things like Instagram. But it can also be sort of just really overwhelming, and people send you all of these messages, and I don't necessarily have time to actually properly reply to everybody, and that can sort of feel like maybe I'm not doing my job properly, or like, should I be responding to this? But it's often something about dog walks, and I think, no, I don't have. So it's a really wonderful thing in some ways, and then in other ways I can just find it such a drain and such a soul-sucking thing. But it's been very crucial for my business, and it's where a lot of people find me, and it's where a lot of the press I've got has come through Instagram. And Twitter is just starting to work for me. Just recently, Twitter has suddenly started to do things just before Elon Musk took over. So that's been quite interesting. And Facebook is there, but it's definitely less useful. But then I also have a newsletter. So as Instagram's algorithm changes and it becomes a less helpful platform, I'm trying more and more to get people to sign up to my newsletter so that they hear from me directly, and keep newsletters interesting and give them reasons to keep subscribing and keep coming back. Basically, yeah.
I'd like to throw up some questions. I can't see, but there's one. If you were going to sum up the experience of Brexit in 5 words, what would you say about that? It was just what was that like? Just so that we get a picture.
Not very good for us.
Okay, great. Okay, that's great. This is a master understatement. Yeah, okay, that's great. Moy.
I want to say a bloody shambles. Dad,
Yeah.
not 5.
Yeah, I was going to say awful. 2 in 1.
Yeah, yeah. It's been a pretty hideous time, and gathering that it's almost because every country's now handled differently. You're having to sort of almost, people are taking decisions about switching off a country from their market entirely.
Yeah. This is, I could speak about this all day long. We ship to every country in the EU. We carry on shipping. We've not closed off any way out, and we'll find a way to get there. If it costs us money just to ship something out and we lose money, we'll do it just so we can retain the market share of that particular country. Italy is dreadful to ship to. It's going to get worse apparently with these new rules coming in. Sweden, very difficult. There's some countries like Belgium that will hold your product for 1 month before delivering it to the customer. It's very, very difficult to ship into the EU. There's meant to be things in place to make it a bit easier, something called IOSS, which every small business has access to, but it will cost thousands of pounds. And this is so the European customer can pay tax at the point of sale, which you could do on a site like Etsy, by the way, but implementing that into your small business that doesn't run on Etsy, etc., is very difficult. Shipping times went up. I was met with customers buying a £7 book off me with a £21 tax charge. Everybody's got a story like that, whether it's importing or exporting. But we have essentially been cut off from Europe, and I've noticed a sharp decline in the last 2 years. Really, Brexit's been, 3 years it's been since we were officially cut off, but a sharp decline in sales to the EU because there's a trust lost in there. So if someone from France wants one of my products, they'll sooner purchase it from France or Germany rather than purchase it direct from our store because the UK is known as not such an easy country to purchase from. A bit like how people in Britain would think twice about ordering something for Switzerland because there would possibly charges come from there, whereas it used to be simple to order from the EU, etc. So difficulties all round. It's not got any better. As I used to say to my dad, it's not going to get better, Dad. We're just going to get used to it. And I think that's slowly happening. We're slowly getting used to it, and sales will carry on going down until we integrate back into that market, which is inevitable. It will happen eventually. Who knows if it's in a couple of years or 10 years' time. But lots of ways around it. But yep.
Mainly migrating to markets that are working for you. So being very flexible with how you.
Yeah. We shipped to. It's easier to concentrate on the US. Yeah. And bite the bullet with what's happening with Europe. It's honest. I'm not making it up or just moaning about Brexit. It's a genuine problem that only small businesses that ship internationally will really see. A large organisation will have a supply chain network to be able to get into the EU, but not SMEs.
Yeah. I think that's something that, because creative businesses, scale has been talked about a lot today, and the idea that you're having to do all the roles and address all the issues, and the scale of creative businesses, it strikes me as that's a real issue because the capacity is different in a small business. I'd love to hear some questions from the floor.
Okay. I was interested about you talking about the IOSS, and I do export a little bit to Europe. It hasn't made a great deal of difference to me, I have to say. There has been some, there has been that brick wall where people have, sometimes the galleries and things have said, they phoned me up. The parcel's stuck in Brussels and they won't pay the import duty. And I've said, you have to pay the import duty, or I'll just bring it back. And they've accused me of doing it wrong, that they don't have to pay. And I've said to them, look, you're VAT registered. What's your problem? It's going to cost you a few extra dollars. No, for your import duty. You'll claim the rest of it back. But I am finding it difficult because I'm finding that we're not getting the information through on what the IOSS is. I actually ended up coming to the conclusion I didn't need it, so I haven't registered. But now we've got the end of chief to deal with in March.
Yeah.
And again, trying to get really down to going through all their websites and trying to find out what it actually means is a nightmare.
Yeah.
So
How are you doing that?
Your work is you make work in glass, is that right?
We do, and I don't send anything that is cheap. So, quite honestly, it's not $30 odd is nothing to them when there's buying an item at £800 and more. It's nothing.
And I think IOSS is only for items that are £50 or under anyway, isn't it? So
Exactly.
It's relevant
Yeah.
to your work.
I got to the point where I just didn't register because I don't see I need it.
Yeah.
But the Europe thing, yeah, I've had that brick wall where everybody has said, oh, I'm not paying it. But then I explained to a lot of the, when I'm selling direct to a customer, I'm already VAT registered. When you bought from me before, the VAT was already included. You paid me the VAT. Now you're just paying your country. What's the difference? And once you can actually get that over to them, I have found it's got a little bit easier. But there has been, I know what you mean by the reject, there is that barrier there. But I am finding it difficult to get to the bottom of what this ending of chief is and the new documentary service that's coming in.
I don't know either. I don't know. I've seen UPS and DHL have offered seminars of the changes that's coming into the EU, which is going to be shortly. With regards to the tax that's being paid by, say, Belgium or France, that they'd be paying the tax instead of us, the VAT from us going to them. There's the additional charge on top. So every country will have a administration fee. And that's usually in my case, because I've got a low-cost product, £16 starts there. They'll be charged an additional £11 administration fee before the £2 tax on top of that. And there's no getting around it. The only way to get around it is sign up to IOSS, which is either £6,000 a year through Delarue or £2 or £3 per parcel. And not easy for someone who does mass volume of shipping at a low cost. The way around it is to stock in country and drop ship from Europe. But I've not found anyone suitable in Europe yet. So if anyone knows a photography or astronomy store in Europe who will drop ship my product, I'd be grateful. But even that has a cost involved to it, which really shouldn't have. Because we've got a great facility here. Royal Mail, up until a few months ago, was absolutely fantastic for shipping internationally and really opened up small businesses to the rest of the world and helped us grow. But even that's got problems at the moment.
Thank you.
It's really positive to hear that you as micro businesses or sole traders have exported it. It's just fantastic. You often hear that it can't be done, but you are. It's really positive. I remember I recently had a package delivered from Europe and I had to pay like £180 on it because it got stuck in some court case where I owed the money. But yeah, so it is really problematic. But it's just really positive. Would there be something, maybe the business community here, the art community, where they could do some of that work for you? Would that be possible? I mean, whether you create a Borders Etsy, for example, I don't know, but would that be where a creative coat hanger or cabin could play a role in that, where they combine and do things for you? Would that just probably be impractical?
Well, I don't know. I'm scared of that because I'd probably end up running it. And
You do a good job.
Yeah.
I think the thing with all of those sort of somebody else doing it for you is that you then potentially have another site that you're directing your customers to. Because at the moment, I'm aware that some friends, some creative friends of mine, they already sold through Etsy. Maybe they started as an Etsy business and then they had their own website. So then they did a bit of both. And now with the iOSS stuff, they will keep their international orders through Etsy, I think, and then do the rest on their website. But I've always wanted to do everything through my website so that I just direct customers to my site and get all the traffic, all the search engine optimization on my website. And the idea of then having to point my customers somewhere else to someone else's site, even if that's very well intentioned and local or something, it's still me having to send my customers to somebody else. And I'm reluctant to do that. I suppose that would be my reasoning behind being hesitant.
I've avoided listing on Amazon and eBay and Etsy for those exact reasons there.
Yeah.
So, because once they get their claws into you, that's it. Your business is theirs. I've heard that story many, many times, and I've avoided it.
The longer your customer can spend on your site and get to know your business, hopefully the more loyal they'll become, or the more interested, or the more likely they are to tell their friends, or something like that. But I want them to spend time on my site and not on some third-party site I never really like the shopping experience you get on these sites that list hundreds of different products.
Yeah.
I was wondering as well, just to sort of pick up on something to do with scale of business and the idea of sharing resources and that kind of thing. I don't know if you're happy, because we had a conversation about it, and the VAT word was mentioned, and you were all mentioning your sort of VAT status. I don't know if you're happy to sort of share that, and what happens when you get to a certain scale, and maybe almost you're thinking of more than one business entity and that kind of thing. So I think it's really it really blows your mind about the scale of these businesses and what they're doing and what they're putting out there. I don't know if you're happy to sort of share just about the VAT side
Sure.
of things.
I'll go first. I was the only of the three of us. I was the only one with a positive experience with VAT, and I think that's because the majority of my revenue is exports, and the majority of my purchases are from within the UK. So every quarter, I tend to get a VAT refund, and I've only been doing that since I've been VAT registered, which is when I reached the threshold when I had to become VAT registered. But before then, I was basically throwing money away by not being VAT registered. But I think that's, of the three of us, that's only the case for me. There are other positives for being VAT registered, and that's you look bigger. Yeah, people treat you like differently because you're VAT registered. Whereas if you're not, they think, oh, you're only little. But yeah, that's a positive experience for me, and I'd recommend it for any small or micro business or that exports a lot. Yeah.
Well, my experience was different, so we disagreed. I've got two businesses. So the gallery is a limited company, which is VAT registered. And as an artist, I'm a sole trader business, but getting near that I've been advised to be VAT registered as well. But unlike what you were saying the other day about being able to claim back, unfortunately, I don't really buy anything much. Well, I'm good at spending money, but I don't really spend a lot of money on materials to make what I make. And my accountant had said many years ago, as a creative or as an artist, watch that you don't have to become VAT registered, because you're creating with your hands. There's nothing that you can really, apart from, a bit on materials, there's nothing much I can claim back on. So that's where we disagreed, that you at least can claim back, but I don't get that. I pretty much don't get anything back. So I would rather not be VAT registered.
Yeah, it's so rare to hear this kind of conversation about businesses talking about their businesses and the pointy end of it in that sort of way. I find that just so refreshing that you can share about things like that, because it's knowledge that's very, very hard to acquire. Sort of within arts education. Flora, do you have anything?
Don't have anything particularly different to add to that conversation. But yeah, I had to become VAT registered because I crossed the threshold. And maybe about a third of my business is export, I think. So I kind of celebrate whenever I sell something overseas because I don't have to pay VAT on it. But then I feel like I lose 20% when I sell something in the UK, because I didn't feel like I was able to put up my prices, certainly of the knitwear, by 20% to cover the VAT. So I did put them up. Did I put them up in the autumn? because materials have gone up several times and the VAT, but I only put them up by 10% because there's still a ceiling on what you can charge for a scarf, I feel, and for people to actually pay it. So I find that aspect of it a bit challenging, and I always have to pay HMRC at the end of the quarter, so it doesn't work out. I don't buy enough stuff in.
Can I know there's probably questions from the floor, but I wanted to, sorry, Susan, can I just pick up, because Kevin was asking about, earlier there was, and Sue also talked about, was it Sue or Sarah, about apprenticeships and about employing people and support. And you all have people supporting you in your businesses in different ways. And if you could just sketch in who's helping you in your business.
So I have 2 students that help me. They're both students at Heriot Watt. I employ them on a freelance basis, and at the moment I have one half a day a week and the other a day a week. And I've always worked with students. Sometimes I get them for more than 1 year, and sometimes it's just a year. So it's quite a lot of training on my part. And I'm now at the stage where maybe I'd like to get someone on board to help with the running of the business a bit more, perhaps, like customer service and packing up orders. That takes up quite a lot of my time now, especially with all the Royal Mail strikes and cyber attack and stuff that's happened recently. That just gave me hours and hours of extra admin and worrying about orders to the point where I feel like I need a holiday and I need to go and cry in a corner somewhere after the winter, because I didn't get that sort of relaxing break over Christmas and New Year that I'd really needed. And turns out I don't enjoy customer service like I thought I did. So I'd really like to hand that over, but I'm not quite big enough to need someone full time. So I've now got that hurdle to navigate. And because I work from home, if I was to get someone in as a sort of regular part-time, half a day every, for the week, maybe I need to move out the house. So I'm at that stage where I have to do some thinking and work out what I want and what I need. But I have help for the sort of the practical making side, which is great.
Thanks. Roy?
Well, within the gallery, I employ somebody part-time, employ somebody social sales assistant, and then somebody who does a bit of admin and bookkeeper and accountant. Within my sole trader business, something I didn't mention is I also run workshops, and I'm establishing where I live as a bit of an art centre. So I've started running art retreats. So during the art retreats, I employ my son, who's a chef. He does the cooking, and I've got 2 other people that come and run it with me, who are wonderful. In addition to that, I sometimes over the years have employed people to come and help produce kits. So to put the kits together, things like that. And that's a bit on and off. Often it's sort of friends, daughters or sons. However, I have wanted to, for some time, either get an intern, and I had looked into that, but actually it's really interesting to hear about that, because I had come up against a brick wall. I hadn't found anything, had looked at the Kickstart, but that, wasn't recommended for my size of business at that point. But what I'd really like to do is to have some people that are interested in what I do, because it's quite specialist, and I'd love to, I think apprenticeships are great, so I would really love to take on some people. But as we were talking about, I do work my studios at home, and whilst I don't mind people coming there because it's a bit separate, it probably would take me away from my own work if I did that full time. So the idea of shared apprentices or something like that would be wonderful, because, for a couple of days a week, I'd happily pass on what I've, sort of developed with other people.
Yeah. So it sounds a lot of people have picked up on that shared apprentice, that apprentice idea. Yeah. And yourself?
We've employed a few people over the years. No one's ever left it on bad terms. But it's just we've taken a few part-time people on for long periods of time. But right now we've got a full-time employee who's been with us for 13, 14 months, and she does a great job. I mean, I go as far as saying that right now I could walk away from the business, give her the codes for the bank, and just say, it's yours. Carry on running it. There we go. Make your own wage. At the moment, I feel like I'm there to innovate and growth. Make the business a bit bigger. So I've been through this thing before. I had a computer company, a non-creative industry when I was younger, and I remember bringing on a person who was particularly good, very trustworthy, hard worker, and I went through that same set of steps, and they eventually took on the business and bought the business, and still running now today in Portsmouth. And I hope to do the same thing with Gemma eventually. It's either that or we carry on growing it together. So it's a journey we can take. But it's lessons that I've learned in the past. And I've just been thinking, I'd like to just pull back slightly to say, with regards to shipping internationally, we've all talked about our woes and the difficulties, but it's still very much doable. It's just a bit of a pain, right? It shouldn't prevent you from starting up your own small business, your small creative business. Don't be put off by shipping internationally. You can still do it, but there are more hurdles to jump over than there were a few years ago. We just didn't realise how easy we had it prior to Brexit, etc. And Royal Mail, when it works, and we should really chat about Royal Mail, when it works, is incredible. It is like a national institution that is, people write it off quite easily. They say, oh, Royal Mail. They talk to it, they mention it in the same breath as Hermes or Every or something, but it is an incredible service. And the prices you can get for international parcels, £1.90 to Spain for a parcel. If you reach the capacity is really nice. But I mean, recent events have been non-strike related, have been problematic.
Yep. Susan, sorry, I didn't come back to you with Chris.
Thanks. I was particularly interested in the fact you both published books. I used to run an export sales department selling books abroad. That's why I came to Dumfries 33 years ago. And in those days, we got lots of market intelligence from the DTI. And I just wondered how you marketed and sold your books. Is it all through online? And, I mean, presumably, because they're written in English, you're looking at English language markets, the traditional ones that we also sold to, like the United States, Canada, New Zealand, Australia. But I was just curious about it. And I was just amazed that you could make enough money to sell books abroad, actually, because books are heavy. Some things are light, like cashmere, value to weight ratio is good. Books are heavy. And I just was interested. Thank you.
Well, shall I? Yeah, okay. So where to start on that? Yeah, so books are heavy, so they're expensive to ship, and I chose to have a hardback, so that's another one. And because I've self-published, it is only available in English. I do still ship it to the EU. As far as I'm aware, I'm the only person that's written a book about visible mending specifically for knitwear. And I was lucky because I'd had the publisher contact me. I knew that they wanted to publish the book. I knew what their time frame was for publishing it. I knew that I could get it out before them. So, yeah. So I've had a USP for it, yes. But I do market it largely online, largely through Instagram, my newsletter, which I think largely comes from Instagram. But I'm very lucky that I've had quite a lot of good press for the visible mending. Some of that started before the book came out. Some of it has been afterwards. So like at the beginning of this year, I had a 6-page feature in Country Living magazine, for example. So that's been good for book sales at the beginning of this year. And some sort of really random publication, well, maybe they're not random, they're just in the US and I don't know it, sort of specialist stitching magazines or something have wanted to write a review of it or something like that. But it's happened quite organically, which has been nice. I haven't really pushed for a lot of that. And I have stockists, again, who've largely come to me or have been recommended, and they tend to be yarn shops. Because it's a book for knitwear, there are lots of hand knitters who want to learn how to then mend, or it's the sort of the next thing to learn. And and I don't want to be wholesaling books by sort of 2 or 3 books, which are sort of what bookshops seem to want. So I want to sell them by the box. So yarn shops have the sort of capacity or the audience to take more of them. So I'm doing it like that at the moment. But yeah, it's all online. So yeah.
And unlike Flora, I didn't self-publish. So I was commissioned by Search Press, who are probably the biggest UK publishers of art and crafts, how-to books. And they've got distributors, or there's Search Press Canada and America. So they do all that. So I just get royalties from that and have to do pretty much nothing apart from write the books. So that's that.
We've got one question here, but I've got actually 3 from online, but they're all from Mark. Sorry, Mark. And one of them's triggering. Has the post office chaos resolved itself? So I think what we're going to do is just let that float away. The second question I think you've answered, which was around between COVID and Brexit, which ones had the biggest impact, positive or negative? So I'm just going to... Sorry, Mark, we're running out of time. The third question was, has anything changed for you guys with the introduction of SOSI, South of Scotland Enterprise? Or is it too early?
Too early to tell.
Yeah, far too early. Sorry.
No.
That's okay. Well, you got to meet some people today. So.
It's a great question, and we had a support question that we asked at one point. It'd be lovely to hear, what kind of support would you like, and what would be your ideal support? Did you get much, and what could you do with? I think that'd be useful to kind of almost record.
I think this would be a different answer for all 3 of us, like where we are in our business. But I'm at a stage where that I feel that we've got to make some growth from where we are at the moment to continue employing a wonderful member of staff and paying a pension or whatever. But these leaps are, at the moment, every leap I'm taking is into the dark. Every shot that I'm taking is a complete guess if it's going to work or not. And I just know there is going to be lots and lots of people out there who've taken the journey where I am, with the product I am, the sort of size we are with Solarcan, to that very next level. And it must be such a simple answer to get there, or someone who's taken that journey who can guide me through that journey. And if it comes to support, that's the support I need at the moment, like a CEO whisperer or something, someone to help us find our way to greater heights, and then I think I'll be done if we reach a nice level. Yeah.
Well, something recently, the past month, had lots of HMRC and admin, just horrible stuff, and I realised that there's very few business advisors. I phoned Business Gateway, I phoned all sorts of people, and actually nobody could help me. And a lawyer eventually helped me, like, freely, just by chatting, by chance. And I said, I've been looking and asking everyone. It's kind of like, what's the best way forward? Like when I was advised all your business should be VAT registered. Then I'm trying to, the property, the gallery, the owner has died, so I've got to try buy that. And I wanted some advice, and somebody advised it has to be a pension fund. And then this lawyer said, who advised you that? That's stupid for a business your size. And I said, I just don't know. Like, nobody will answer. So I think there's a real need for actual business advisors. And the one that I did talk to, the only place I could find, by the end of the conversation, we both agreed that I knew more than he did. He was a young business, and I thought that wasn't much good. But what I would really like, I think that's just needed overall for people, but I would like to, it'd be great to get some sort of help to take the business internationally. So at the moment I do sort of art fairs, here, but actually, for instance, when I did the Edinburgh Art Fair, there's lots of galleries from down south, and lots of them that I spoke to said, why don't you come to the New York show and the Berlin show? And to me, that just seemed, God, how would you even begin to do that? Yeah, well, that's what That's what I'd like support for.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm never quite sure what support I want. I think often the things I find most helpful, and it's partly because I work largely by myself, I think, is just getting together with other small creative businesses and having a chat. And you find out what they're doing or what interesting thing they found out. And just talking with people who are in a similar situation, because you often actually have similar problems that you can work through or have worked through. And I normally find that really, really interesting, and it's a way of kind of bouncing ideas around. But then I suppose maybe other help I'm going to need in the future is possibly if I am going to look at hiring someone on a more permanent basis, is maybe writing a really good job description and knowing what I'd get myself into by employing somebody on a more permanent contract rather than on a freelance basis. So.
Yeah, I agree with that point about getting together with other small businesses and having symposiums or groups, because you can learn something from each other. The advice is free, and you can say something. For example, do you realise you've been clicking the wrong button on Raw Mail and overpaying all this time?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And you help each other out, and it could take you a year to earn this bit of knowledge, but you're always going to support another small local creative business in the borders.
Yeah,
absolutely. So I'm always open to those sort of meetings and discussions.
So great. It sounds like a version of Borders Expo Club as was. It's really sorry.
Yeah, thank you. This is forgive me my sort of stream of consciousness here, but. With regards to the exporting of Beyond, the three of you had existing businesses that you were able to pivot into more of a digital model, which allowed for a cheap and easy and relatively fleet delivery service, apart from the upfront work. But it made me think that when we're talking about earlier on about creative sharing space, office space, studio space, what would you say to and would you trust and would you allow this, a service that enabled you guys to package, support, sell and send off, so that what sounds like the pain in the bum aspect of your exporting business was almost outsourced? And I don't know if every creative who sells craft and looking to export, it is the biggest kind of barrier to their exporting. And whether we're looking at a creative company to support the creatives in their exporting, would you trust someone like that?
If they were good.
Yeah, I have an answer. I do that. So I will package and ship for other companies. I've slowly starting to envelop a small company called Zone Imaging that sells photographic developer. I've bought into the person. I think the person's fantastic. I really don't care about the product. Don't really understand what's special about it, but he's so passionate about it. And I've seen the way he ships his goods. And I said, James, let me sort this for you. Just send me your stock and I'll ship it internationally. I've reduced his costs by almost an order of magnitude, and the quality of his shipping is better because he really did not care about how he was shipping these little boxes of photochemicals. I'm not making any profit at all in it, but I have solved his logistics problem. I have increased my turnover because of it, and I've built a partnership with someone who I think's exciting and fun, dynamic, much younger than me, and obviously got a lot more energy. And I'm open to doing that with other people. Jessie, for example, down here is running a Kickstarter, a plug for Jessie. She's got books to ship soon, and I've said to her, for example, I can deal with it. I can do all of that. We're set up to run it. We've got everything. It's a piece of cake for us. Whereas I know it's a complete nightmare because when we first set up and started shipping, it was a mess. It took us 2 years to figure out the logistics of shipping and making something look nice and professional when it goes out, and being eco-friendly and cost-efficient, etc. So yes is the answer, but I am the solution in that regard because I've invited other people, because we're set up to do it and we've got the space and the time to do that sort of thing. Yes. 100%. Yeah, this isn't an advert. I'm not making any money, but yes, let me help. I could either help you get set up, or it doesn't cost me anything apart from a little bit of time, and we develop a partnership. And I think only good things can come from that.
Would that go for big paintings or expensive pieces of art?
No,
specialist
no,
packaging?
yeah. Okay, so
Insurance?
So low price object. So a big price object, I'd absolutely recommend you use DHL or UPS, or so yeah, rather than under 2 kilograms we can handle.
Whereas I think I find the idea of handing anything over quite challenging, and I like trying to maintain as much personal contact with my customers as possible. So I like being able to put a handwritten note from me to them in with each order, and that for me is quite an important part of that relationship. But I will try and hand that over at some point. I just haven't worked out how I continue that without me having to do it. But yeah.
I think that's all we've got time for. Is that right, Helen? Yes. I mean, I find this. I'd love to hear more. I'd really love to hear more about what you do, because it's a bit of I think it's obviously really inspiring to hear what you do, but it's also a bit of a kick-ass. I find for me to hear what you do, because it's so beyond my understanding of business and my capabilities in business, and to hear how you're going about that, it's just like, wake up. I just sort of feel that kind of thing about the realities of what I'm doing myself, and how much I can learn from that. I would love there to be some kind of Borders Export Club where creative businesses could get together and discuss in this way. So I think we all feel a bit that in the room, that's a tremendous amount of knowledge to have shared. And would love to hear more. There will be an event on the 20th, so I don't know if you're able to participate in that as well, but that we will be picking up that theme because we think it's such an important one. So if I could just have a round of applause for our speakers here, fantastic speakers. Thank you. Yeah, thanks very much. And I think Inga is going to come up for some closing remarks.
Thank you. That was amazing. Yeah, my mind is fried, but I think as a kind of concluding things, mailing list, that's what it was. We also have a mailing list, so if you want to know more about the events, sign up, go to the Creative Coathanger website, designed by Alex Lunn, and you can sign up, and we'll keep you posted of any of the events coming up. And also our social media, which we are learning fast to use better. But anyway, first of all, we want to thank all of the speakers today. We've had a vast array of speakers coming through. All of you die-hard people who stayed till the end, thank you very much. In person and online, Mark, thank you. We'd also like to give a massive, massive thank you to Helen. Without Helen, we wouldn't be here. She's an angel, really. Also, a massive thank you to the Mackay crew. We've got Joe and Dave and Chris and the crew in the front. So Mackay as a venue, I think, is fab. I'm going to shout about it to everybody. And then finally, we want to obviously thank again our funders, Scottish Government, through the Scottish Borders Council Community-Led Learning and Development Fund.